listing agent on that side to understand the program as well. Okay, so when the market changes, and which is a lot of you guys, oh my gosh, the rates are up, the market is down. When we got exposed for the last 3 years, having extremely low rate, right? But everybody knew, everyone, that it's not going to last, right? So some people, they bought on those times, and some people, they didn't. But there's so many, plenty of buyers on the market right now. They are literally working so hard to buy a house. And believe it or not, many are okay with getting the 6 and 6.5% interest rate. And many others, we are working with the listing agent to have the seller pay some of the closing costs, and that closing cost goes toward their buying down their rate. Okay? So if the mentality of the sellers is not going to change, and the listing agents are not preparing the sellers how the market is changing, then the buyer is not going to pay the full price of a house which was been overpriced for the last 3 years, right? Does everybody agree that the market went too high too soon? The price is appreciated so fast, knowing that nothing keeps going up, right?
Right.
It's going to go down. It's going to level up. It's going to go down. So what I'm saying here is like the listing agent, and if you're working with listings as well, you have to prepare from the day that you sit with the seller that the market is changing. Mr. Seller, you might have to pay some closing costs in buyer's behalf so the buyer can get the lower interest rate to afford the payment, right? So, I mean, the price is gonna go down, but it's a healthy adjustment because all those houses were way overpriced. But the buyer was getting a very good interest rate in return.
And they didn't care.
So basically when you're getting 3% interest rate, you're paying a little bit higher price on those houses, okay. But you're not gonna be able to pay 6% and 70%, and the price is gonna go up. It has to adjust down so the buyer can afford that monthly payment. Is that correct or not? I mean, some of those monthly payments are $300, $400, $500 more.
Yes.
Yeah, it's great.
Okay, with the interest rate being higher. But all what we try to do, which is bringing in a little bit of solutions, and I want to tell you something, everything in life is how you present it to your buyer and to seller. We know, you know, but how you can bring it up, how you can make your buyer think about different ways of, to make that monthly payment affordable for them. The other thing is, I tell my buyers when they come to us, which is literally, we are very, very grateful for having the business that we're having in this time, because I know half of the loan officers, they went and they are at Walmart or at Target right now, right? So basically having built up a business that keeps us, sustain our, business, we are very thankful. Now, when we're talking to the buyers, I tell them, the house, you cannot change the house, and you cannot change the purchase price. You buy it for $200,000, you're gonna buy it for $200,000. But the interest rate is not fixed. You can always refinance. Right? So basically, have you seen the wave of refinance for the last couple of years, 3 years? Actually, many of the loan officers came into the market just to do refinance. They're not purchase loan officers. The minute the refinance goes away, they go away. Okay? Which is, everybody wants to do something at some point. But at the same time, I have started the business when the interest rate was 7%. And I remember at some points it was 9%.
22 at one time.
18.
I was not there.
You were the boy.
When I bought my first house, it was 13%.
13%. So the last 3 years it spoiled us. Like yesterday I had talked to a client and he wants to buy another home. He wants to rent his property and move to another house. And he's like, well, I get the 2.5%. I said, well, that was a chance of a lifetime, right?
Yeah.
Don't down, it's gonna go down. But usually over the years, if you average the interest rate, it was about 6%. But now people has to adjust that the interest rate did go up. And when it adjusts down, it's gonna be, I would think, like always when I did loans, around 4.5% interest rate. It's not gonna go back to the 2 and 2.5. So we are what? Almost 2 points than what it might adjust back. So how we can get that done? Okay, I'm gonna bring you this program, which is we have 2 transactions right now, and I feel like Antelope Valley, they need to tap into this, so you can bring in something and some solutions to the buyers and to the sellers, because those sellers, they think that they have to drop the price way too much, and they might not have to. All what they have to do is pay some closing costs in the buyers, in behalf of the buyer, so the buyer can have much more affordable monthly payment to get to the seller's property, right? So if I'm a seller, instead of dropping my house $50,000, I'd rather pay $20,000, $15,000 to help the buyer get a lower interest rate, either short-term or long-term, lower interest rate, so that buyer can afford that payment. So the only thing right now it's making the buyer not put those offers is because of the rate and the higher monthly payment. So if we adjust the interest rate to a lower, now they do not have that problem anymore, right? So you got it, guys? I do not know who's new, who's not new, who's been writing offers and who's not been writing offers. But everything we're gonna be discussing right now, I want you to absorb it as if like, you know, the 1, 2, 3 when you learned from school. So basically, when you bring it up to your buyer or to your seller, you know what you're talking about and how it works, okay? So the first slide, actually, it's about the program's name, which is that's what I'm gonna focus on right today, and this is Carol. Everybody knows Carol, right? So Carol is like mostly here in the office. So anything you need, you always can go to her. She is at the corner office at the front. Everybody knows where Carol's office is. I lived here in this office for almost about 15 years to 17 years. I was here in the morning, left at 9 p.m. every single day. So I'm not that young anymore, so.
No, now it's my turn to live here.
We are partners, we work together, so anything you need, you always, can reach to both of us. So what is a 2-1 Buydown? It's actually still a mortgage, but it's like self-explanatory, which is because that it's 2, that means 2 years down. So I want you to think which year we are. 22. So we are giving the client 2 points lower in 2 years. So the first year, I'm going to explain it to you in details. So it's a lending technique that provides for a lower mortgage payment during the first 2 years of the term of the loan. Okay? So the first 2 years, which is 2, 1, which is each year, is going to adjust another 1%. So I'm going to explain that in a little bit further. Carol's going to take over in a little bit, but I just want to explain it. And please, when we are like going over things, just write down anything comes to your mind, because you're going to forget later to ask. But it's extremely important to understand how the program works. So that way, oh, my buyers, you know what, we can ask the seller for $12,000. And what does that $12,000 do? Actually, it goes toward this, and this. So it's extremely important how you present. It's, by the way, nothing you see on social media is the truth. It's the way people put it on social media. And the same thing, how you present this program to your buyer is how the buyer's gonna look at it, right? So the first year, in the first year of this program, the principal and interest payment will be based on 2% below the note rate. Okay? So let's say your buyer today, you bring in a buyer and their rate is 6.5% today. This buyer's interest rate, based on their FICO, down payment, ratios, whatever that might be, is 6.5. So when we close this deal and the seller can pay whatever they need to pay, their rate will start 2 points lower, which is
4.5.
4.5. Okay? You got that? So basically, today's rate will close the transaction at 4.5% interest rate, which is a lot of savings on the buyer's monthly payments toward their principal and interest. So the buyer, instead of going in with 6.5% interest rate, they are getting the first year 4.5% interest rate. Everybody's good with that? On the second year, the principal and interest payment will be based on 1% below the note rate. So what's today's note rate for that client? What did we say?
5.5.
6.5, right? So when we close it right now, it's 4.5. Next year, it's gonna be 5.5. So it goes 1% higher than what's.
I have a question. So the year for them starts when they purchase the home?
Yeah, the 4.5 starts when they purchase the house and we close the escrow.
Okay, so that would be 1 year. That means if they buy in February, then it's gonna be February next year. Okay.
12
Yeah.
months.
Let's say the first payment due in March, let's say 2023. So March 2024, their rate goes higher 1%. So instead of making a monthly payment on 4.5%, now they are making a monthly payment on what? On 5.5%.
Okay, now the very next question is this going to be on a fixed loan amount?
Fixed rate.
Fixed rate?
Yeah,
Which means,
30 years fixed.
okay.
At 6.5.
Yeah. So I don't know if this right or not. So what is the note rate for that client?
Right now, or the note rate is 6.5?
6.5.
6.5.
Does it work? If this one works? Okay, I just want to put down so you know. So today's rate, you come in, you have a buyer, we qualify that buyer, and the rate is 6.5, right? That's the note rate.
Yes.
Actually, this rate is the max that the interest rate will go to. It would not pass that. So I qualified the buyer at 6.5 interest rate. So we close the first year, like which is this year, is 4.5, right? The second year, let's see. Yes. Second year, how much lower?
1%.
So from 4.5, it's gonna go to what?
5. And the third year, it is 6.5.
Okay? So I'm gonna go into the date. So his first payment, let's say March, right? 2023. Now, the second year on March 2024, it's gonna be 5.5, right? Now, in March 2025, guess what? The max is gonna go up to this, which is today's rate for him, 6.5. Okay? So basically, this client has a break on his mortgage payment for 2 years. Got it? I'm gonna give you an example, live example that we just opened escrow with on a client and how much their payment is gonna be for his first year. We're gonna close his transaction. And how much his monthly payment is gonna be in the second year, and what could be, if he did not buy down the rate, what is his monthly payment right now? You understand? So you can see how much that the client is literally getting help from the seller the buyer's not paying for it. Okay? So basically, I'm a home buyer. It's an excellent, actually, one for someone who wants to get into something and he feels like he's stretching himself for that monthly payment. Okay? So now, for the next 2 years, if the rate stays the way it is, and he could not refinance on those 2 years, what could be his payment?
So could the buyer refinance throughout any time of those first 3
Anytime.
years? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Which is, there's no loss for him whatsoever, right? So what's great about this program is that home buyers can purchase a new home at a more affordable payments, giving them 2 years to make lower mortgage payments and ease into the full payment based on the loan rate amount. So essentially, home buyers will get 2 years of lower monthly payment. Okay? So if you are purchasing a house and you can qualify for, let's say, the $3,000 monthly payment, can you imagine you're making $2,400 or $2,300 or $500 less monthly payment for the next 2 years? It's gonna give them a break till either the interest rates goes down, or if the rate doesn't go down whatsoever and they could not refinance for lower rate, they got 2 years of a lower monthly payment. Okay? It's hard to to wrap your hands around.
So just to kind of reiterate, that's, so for example, the second year it's at 5.5. Let's say around that 5.5, interest rates like today, they're like around 4%. They're able to refinance and just get,
They are able to refinance, and whatever money the seller paid on their behalf, I heard it will go toward their principal.
Oh,
So whatever we didn't use, they didn't use it from that money, it goes toward the principal.
wow.
That's what we know about this program. Okay? So let's say the seller had to pay $12,000, right? To have the buyer make a lower payment. And let's say the first year and the second year the buyer refinanced, right? There's $6,000 left. That $6,000 goes down into their principal. Okay? So it doesn't go to waste. Okay? How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Long time no see.
Long time no see.
Yeah. So the seller or builder can fund the buy down. So it's actually a program we are proposing to the seller to pay in buyer's behalf. So when you are presenting your offer, okay, I'm gonna give you the language that you have to put in your purchase contract exactly to be able to get that buy down, okay?
and the seller is only able to pay for that buy down?
The seller, I mean, there is certain portions that I think the buyer or the lender can pay it, but because of the rates being so high,
Yeah,
there's not much money, and the buyer, we don't want to propose it to the buyer.
yeah.
I have a lot of buyers, actually, they're buying down their interest rates right now, left and right, by the way, and the buyer is bringing in the money to buy it down, okay? But that is a permanent buy down. So basically, the buyer brings it down 0.5%, pays for it, but it's permanent, like for the rest of the loan. This one is the first 2 years, which is they get the break.
For that permanent, could they refinance it again, or is it just?
They can refinance it,
They can?
yes,
Oh, okay. So they can refinance
anytime.
Although refinancing does have some costs, right?
It has some closing costs, but it's well worth it when their monthly payment goes down so much for the rest of the loan.
So as a buyer perspective, would I be paying out of my pocket then for the closing fees if the seller is actually giving that extra money for whatever purpose they need?
No, I didn't say the seller is keeping the money.
So, no, the buyer, who's paying the closing?
So basically, I'm gonna explain it to you, how does this and how it works.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so you'll have a little bit better understanding. So who is actually can qualify for this house if a buyer is buying primary or secondary loan?
Either one.
So, yeah. So that's it, investments is not available. The next one, types of program that qualify for 2-1 buy down, if the buyer is getting conventional, FHA, or VA. All of those, and if they are actually refinancing, but the refinance, who is the seller, who is the borrower, is the, but it's conventional, FHA, and VA, okay? Why we are seeing the 2-1 buy down program now, okay? So, always, actually, it's been a program for the longest time, but when the rates were down, you don't need it, literally. So in an environment where mortgage rates are rising, the 2-1 buy down benefits home buyers by helping them afford a larger mortgage and more expensive homes. It is especially appealing to first-time home buyers who may be having trouble purchasing a home in the current market. So basically, a lot of buyers, even though I can qualify them for the mortgage payment, literally they are like stretching, their finances. They are stretching their finances to make that monthly payment. So it gives them a break, basically. And especially first-time home buyers, this is their, and you know how first-time home buyers are, right? They're so scared to make the move. They are afraid of the risk. They're scared of the commitment, mostly commitment, right? So I just want to let you know, it's excellent program right now. We are proposing it a lot, and I've been working, and Carol as well, when our buyers putting an offer, and they call us and they say, okay, how much would it cost my buyer to buy down the rate right now for 2-1 buy down? And I say $9,000, right? So they are putting the purchase contract with the $9,000 to be paid by who?
The seller.
By the seller, right? So now I have to get on the phone with who? The listing agent. The listing agent, a good listing agent, the first thing they do, what they do? They call the lender. If you're a good listing agent, the first thing you do, you call the lender. So, or sometimes I'm the one who is initiating the call and call the listing agent and say, listen, you know what, my buyer submitted an offer, this is what's going on, and I know there's $9,000 in discount fees in buyers, in buyer's behalf, and we're gonna be using this for this, this, and this. So the way we explain it to the listing agent, so the listing agent explain it to the seller, okay? And Keller Williams AV.
Zoom is back, so we're just putting it on Zoom again.
I have like
Anybody
3
else question?
realtors from other offices. They're like, Hadia, are you coming to our office to present this? And I'm like, no, we're in Antelope Valley today.
Yeah.
And he said, can I see it?
I know, I actually had a lot of clients, so there's a lot of clients that we pre-approved with this type of loan as well, so they wanted to attend.
I like to see myself on the screen. Like a friend of mine yesterday, it's like, I miss you. I said, I don't blame you, I miss myself. She's like, honey, you're full of it. I'm like, yeah. No, I'm just kidding, but I want to make a joke. But I did say, I don't blame you. So
I believe
I just met Maria, by the way, the other day. So the 2-buy 1 down will be great for anyone with limited income for a short time, but who anticipates their income to increase significantly by year 3 of the loan. So basically, you have this buyer who's so afraid of the commitment, right? And they know that they're gonna be in a better financial position in the next year or the year after. So basically they get into something that's a little bit easier on their finances, on financial, responsibilities. So that way, on the second year or third year, I would not mind getting this, right? If I'm making $600 lower monthly payment every month.
And it's not costing me anything?
Yeah, and it's not costing me anything, and the second year, it's like, $300 less, and I know after the third year, this is the highest my monthly payment would go up, I'm fine with it, right? So, I mean, I want you guys to propose it when you are with the buyer, tell him, you know what? I know you're okay with this monthly payment, but let's try. Okay? And let's put it in writing so the seller would pay this much on your behalf and the whole thing is gonna go to who, what? Toward your interest rate. Okay? In a buyer's market, the 2-1 buy down is often used to make it faster and easier for sellers to sell their homes at a reasonable price. So how does benefit the seller, right? So right now, you know the home's sitting a little bit longer on the market, right? You see that, which is, it was abnormal when the house sits on the market for an hour and people had 15 offers really before it hits the market. So that was abnormal market. And whoever took advantage of it, took advantage of it. But right now, they cannot keep thinking the same way it was happening for the last 2 years. There's no way. So, Mr. Seller, either you're gonna have to lower your purchase price this much, or we can lower it a little bit and then help the buyer with their closing costs so they can have much more affordable monthly payment. By the way, anything the seller pays, it can go to this 2-1 buy down, or to what?
The closing costs.
Or closing cost, or we can use it to a permanent buy down. Okay, but the permanent buy down, it costs more money. Okay?
Like how much?
It costs a lot more money.
You're not gonna get 4.5.
At 4.5,
Get
it might
4.5.
cost 30,000, 35,000, and on this 2-1 buy down, which is not a permanent buy down to the client, it could be like 12,000.
Yeah.
Okay? I did not put we should have put a scenario actually.
Well, today I was pricing somebody, and to even buy down just 0.5% was costing them $5,000. To just buy it down 1 point was costing $12,000. So you're never going to bring it down that low as the 2-1 buy down.
Yeah. And what's good about it, actually, which is it's gonna be a little bit harder for you to understand, we cannot charge the buyer too much money in closing costs and in discount fees. Then it gives us an alert in our system that it's a high price closing cost. So we cannot charge them more than 80% of the purchase price. When we are the other day, a client is like, I'm willing to pay $37,000, can I get this interest rate? I cannot charge it to him. Then it will become high cost more.
Yeah, it's a violation, so we cannot charge a client more than a certain percentage of their loan amount, or otherwise we are violating a law, like a lending law. So even if it's available, we might not be able to do it because we cannot do the law. It's a violation.
Okay.
Just one law you're breaking, what's the big deal? It's your license, not mine, right?
Let me say this in between. Let me tell you something, guys, extremely important. Throughout your lives, whatever information comes to your attention and in front of you, listen to it. Even though sometimes you think it's not related to you, to your business, to your life. Because those information, the one that you're learning and you're listening to right now, guess what? It's gonna help you tomorrow because someone is gonna talk in front of you about 2-1 buy down, another realtor. And you're not gonna look like, dummy, I do not understand what he's saying. I know what he's saying. I listened to this before. I might have not used it. I might have not closed a transaction like this, but for sure I know what they're talking about.
And they're gonna be like, who do you work for?
Exactly. Exactly.
I just closed one to a VA buy down.
2-1 buy down?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was, the buy down was like 11,000. But there's a way you have to word it on the contract.
I
because-
have it at the end.
Yeah.
I have the wording at the end so you guys can make
Oh,
note
okay.
of it. Yeah, you cannot just say closing costs.
Yeah, we had an addendum.
That's my question. Let's say I have a buyer that the seller's gonna go ahead and buy down the interest rate for 12,000. And also, my buyer doesn't have closing costs. Can they pay the closing costs on top of the buy down?
Yeah,
Okay,
they have to put it in
two different spots.
two
I was just wondering, 'cause-
different verbiages.
Because the seller can only provide so much to the buyer, right? Or no?
No, so basically
Two
when
different
it
things.
goes to the buyer's closing costs is one thing. When it goes to their discount fees, that means it meant just to buy down their rate.
Gotcha.
That's the difference.
Thanks.
Hi.
Hi.
That was it.
That's it.
That's
No,
all I got.
what, FHA versus conventional, are there different guidelines, RESPA, the max that a seller can contribute to buyer's closing costs? Is it a max in closing costs and then they can contribute toward the rate? Or is that all under closing costs?
So anytime you wanna use this thing to have the seller just to buy in buyers, buy down, either permanent interest rate or the two buy down, I have the verbiage that you have to use that verbiage. If you want the seller to, let's say, contribute X amount of money toward their closing costs, you're gonna say $4,000 in buyer's closing costs.
Yeah.
And $10,000 in a discount, in discount.
Right. We'll get to that.
We'll get to that,
I mean, we can get there, so.
okay?
You have to write specifically seller to credit buyer X amount of money for discount points. That's different from the closing costs.
Oh, okay, I just wanna know what the max percentage is based off the, like, is there a max?
For this, it depends on how much it costs. For the closing cost, it's something else.
I have a question. So since they're buying the percentage, how would they see their money back when it comes to the interest at the end of the year for taxes purposes?
Which has nothing to do with taxes. It does not help them with their taxes, it just helps them with their interest rate. That's it.
I think she's asking, when you get the 1099 form at the end of the year for a tax write-off, that's what she's asking.
No,
No.
it's not.
Yeah.
Okay. So, do you want to explain this?
The buy-down calculator?
So that way, you can see both of us.
Okay, so here we're providing you with an example to see, let's say we have a scenario where the client likes this loan and they want to go forward with it. How much do we have to ask the seller, right, to contribute? Let's say they're buying a house, if you look at the purchase price right there of $550,000, their loan amount is $425,000, and the interest rate right now it's 7.111, right? If we're going to do a 2-1 buy down, how much is it going to cost the seller? Well, it's going to cost the seller $9,956, and that's the exact amount that we're going to have to ask our seller to buy down the rate for.
So basically, if you go up as well, they are, let's say we qualify the buyer today, and the rate for that buyer today is 7.111. It's 30 years. Number of payments is 12 months, 12 payments. And guess how much, what is their monthly payment right now if they get 7.111? Give it to me.
2,800.
$2,859. This is principal and interest.
Gracias.
Yeah, they
So the current principal and interest at the 7.11, it's going to be $2,859. If we go with the 2-1 buy down option, on their first year, their interest rate is how much? 5.111.
So it's 2 points lower, right?
Yeah.
The first year.
Okay? So how much does that bring down their payment? It brings it down to $2,310.
More than $500.
There you go. So in that first year, how much are they saving? $6,586 on that first year.
And the monthly savings per month for their payment is $548. Every month, instead of making $28.56, they are making $23.10. I want them to kind of like take it all in so they look at the numbers and how you can guys present it to your buyer. And by the way, we can give you this calculation based on your buyer scenario. We can send it to you so the buyers can see it in front of them.
Okay? And even on the second year, once the rate...
Guys, Brittany or whoever.
Can you guys mute
Can you
your
mute your, Brittany?
Brittany.
Brady, can you mute yourself?
You can do it, Gary. Do it up there.
Show her.
So are they not paying attention?
Brandon
They
knows
can't
how.
hear us?
Listen.
That's how much people they're trying to learn. Guess what? Your time is totally wasted if you're not here or in any scenarios and you're not paying attention. Literally, you're not there and you're not here and literally your time is not even worth it.
Oh, she did it.
Believe me, I used to be in class and I'm like, what did he say? What is he talking about? Because my mind went somewhere else, so.
No. Oh, there it is.
Can you?
Can we get this in an email?
Thank you.
Can you send it to the?
Yeah, we can send it to
Yeah.
the email.
You need a business card?
Huh?
You need a card, business card.
Well, I can send it to the office and the office can put it on, can send it to you.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Because I don't have everybody's emails.
Okay, so even on the second year, once the rate reaches 6.111, their monthly payment is gonna drop 2578.
It's gonna go up to 25.78.
Right, but still it's gonna drop from the original one of 2,859, saving how much? $280 a month, saving $3,369 a year. So even if they don't refinance in the first 2 years, they're still gonna be saving a lot of money based on the buy down that we're giving them. Okay?
And the third year, it goes to the original, which is 28.59. And that's the,
It caps.
it goes toward the rest of their loan, right? So the first 2 years and the 28 years, it will be 28.59. Principal and interest without taxes and insurance.
Okay? So let's look at another scenario right here. So in this case, the purchase price is at 600,000, the loan amount is 540,000, and the interest rate today, it's a 6.99.
Actually, those are life scenarios
Yeah.
that we just our clients were calling us about, or I'm giving them that options.
So for the last one, it was like 10,000 to pay, yeah. So 956,
So
so
they-
that's what
yes.
we would ask for. So we would just ask for like 10,000 in seller's credit, that would go, and then the rest would maybe go towards closing costs.
Okay, so basically, let's say you want to ask the seller just for 10,000.
Yeah,
You can say $10,000 discount. I'll give you the verbiage.
To
Okay,
the buyer.
that is gonna go to this.
yeah,
Okay, now you wanted the seller to pay another $5,000 toward their closing cost. You can phrase it another financing, whatever, in the purchase contract, $5,000
to closing costs.
crediting buyers toward their,
Recurring and under the
recurring and then recurring.
Credit for buyers.
You know, always use that verbiage in case, you know?
Yeah.
So basically, you split them. This for this for this.
Is still the max is 3% or could it be more?
So, let me tell you, what he's asking, which is the same question that Brandon asked, which is Brandon is looking at his phone, which is he called me the other day, he's like, can you tell me more about 2-1 buy down? I said, come on into my class, and I'll tell you more about 2-1 buy down.
I listen, don't worry.
Literally, I'm just letting you know, guys. In conventional loans, 3% max toward buyer's closing costs.
Okay.
Now, conventional non-owner occupied, you have to understand, like if your buyer is buying investment property, it's 2%. The mistakes of all the realtors are doing actually, you know? If you're thinking to have a child, here you go. Think about it. No, I'm just kidding, go have a child.
No, she's serious. It's mine. It's mine.
It's a Britney.
Mike, reach Mike.
Mike.
Just kick them out.
It's not Mike. Mike is not, it doesn't have kids around
Can you just
We
mute
turn
your
the
phone?
volume off on the computer.
That's it.
No, I just checked.
What I'm
Just
saying
break it.
is,
Get rid of the problem.
so if you wanna write it down, guys, if you have a computer or you have a paper, if you are presenting a buyer and you wanna ask the seller to pay closing costs on behalf of your buyer, you cannot ask for primary residence. If your buyer is buying his own primary residence, it's a 3% in closing costs. That's the max the
What's
seller
your
can
question?
pay.
You had another question.
That's his question, right? Isn't that your question?
Yeah, that was
In FHA, I think it's up to 6%.
Yeah, 6%.
So that's why I could not answer like just one answer. If you are presenting a buyer, by the way, and they are going into, they're going into FHA financing, you can ask the seller up to 6% in buyer's closing costs. By the way, that 6%, we can use some of it for closing costs, some of it to buy down their rate as well.
It's like all from the same bracket. It's all from the same bracket.
This one, actually, you have to be specifically that this amount of money is going to discount points.
I think that's where everyone's getting confused.
But you can
No, it
still
doesn't
ask for
fall-
6 more percent, right?
But, yes, but
Okay.
that's gonna be, you have to word it on your contract that it's gonna
Right.
be towards the
Closing
closing
costs?
costs, nothing to do with the buy down at that point.
Let's say like, let's say you go into the contract, you didn't specify, you didn't put the wording, can you add an addendum later?
Yes.
Fix it, yeah.
So-
Yeah, we're trying to avoid you guys not to be knowing that from the beginning. So if you know that, you don't have to do the addendum.
If you're not
Because
sure,
Like
just,
he said.
I would just send it to Carol and say, hey, is this all worded right? And she says, yeah, and then send it.
You have no idea how many times
Yeah.
word it this way.
I mean, she's the one that has to sell it to the underwriter, so you make sure she obeys it.
Yeah. So it's just text me.
They're smart.
This is another scenario.
Carol's for, she's
This
awesome.
is
Okay.
another scenario, so we can let you know, guys, what could be cost to the seller in case they want to do
Just so we
this.
can compare a little bit. So what's the difference between this one? Oh no, this is not working. Between this one and,
Brandon, can you see if the pizza came
what's
from
the
the front
difference
desk?
between this scenario and the next
Okay, can you
scenario?
bring it?
Difference number one, the purchase price here is
I
higher.
told the lady to.
One pizza bucks?
I ordered pizza, bring it. Oh,
Okay, it's right there, the pizza, which is
Wait,
already.
Okay, I just wanted to mention.
What is it, Carol?
So what's the difference between the two scenarios? In this one, the purchase price is higher. We're talking about 600,000 purchase price, right?
Gotcha.
So not all scenarios are gonna be the same. They're really dependent on the purchase price, the loan amount, and the interest rate. So if you thought your buy down on another file was 10,000, it might be different on another file because the ratios change, the purchase price change, right? So here, on this scenario, we have a 6.99 interest rate. At this interest rate, their monthly payment is $3,589. Now, on the first year, it drops to how much? 4.99. Okay, saving them $693 on their monthly payment.
Wow.
Right? Making an annual saving of $8,321. So on their first year, they're already saving $8,000. On their second year, it goes up to 5.99. Saving $354 on their monthly payment for a total of $4,258.
Wow.
Now in this scenario, how much do we have to ask the seller to bring in for the buy down? $12,580. So we have to ask for more money. So that's why every scenario is going to have a different calculation because the purchase price is going to be different, the interest rate might be different as well. So every time we're doing an offer with one of the realtors here, actually, if we change the purchase price, we always notify, okay, then you have to ask for $10,500 this time. Or it was $9,500 before, because it changes depending on how much we're
So
offering.
we should call you first.
Always,
Okay.
yeah.
So basically, you ask,
Yeah, right.
your purchase contract, so you can ask for the right
Yeah, go
amount if
ahead.
you're representing.
What happens if the seller doesn't wanna agree? What do we do with the loan, with the scenario of the loan?
I mean, if the seller doesn't agree to buy down the rate, then we cannot do a 2-1 buy down, but we can look into different options, different
Right.
solutions, maybe do a permanent buy down of the interest rate instead of a 2-1 buy down.
So this is a fixed rate, it has to be 2 and 1.
You can do 1-1, you can do a 1-1 buy down. Okay, so that means instead of getting to the 4.99, we only get to the 5.99.
So then the seller would just come in with the 42.
Would you say that, like, asking for a 3% for the buy down would be sufficient to cover the buy down? When you're in most
No,
cases?
because like I said, every single calculation is gonna bring in a different number. So I think it's better to double check. It takes a second to double check how much we need to ask from the seller, than just ask it, and then once we're in contract, hey, actually we need $200 more.
So get an
And
exact
then,
number.
you know, so let's get an exact number from the beginning.
It's even if you ask for more, by the way, I just wanna let you something. When you are asking more from the seller and we do not use all the amount goes back to the seller. Okay, so let's say you go and say, okay, Mr. Seller, can you pay 5% of my buyer's closing costs? And you do not use that 5%, the money has to go back to the seller. So guess what? I mean, we do certain things, like when I see that there's a lot of money asked from the seller and we're not gonna be using it, I try to see what's the left and try to reduce the purchase price, the interest rate of the buyer, so that way it doesn't go back to the seller. You understand?
Yeah.
So we do different things, we discuss it with you, whatever, but what I'm saying is it's better to be accurate, because you might need $10,000 and you need to put, let's say, $10,000 going to discount points, you know, on buyer's behalf, let's say. Okay, so we know this is going to the buy down, and then you can put $5,000 going to the buyer's closing costs. Okay, so we use that $5,000 to reduce their closing costs. You got it?
Yeah.
So it's better to be a little bit more accurate.
And it takes a second at the end of the day, more than in the future having to do an addendum, correcting this, correcting that, calling the seller, calling the listing agent, I'm sorry, you know, saving your time and effort at the end of the day, making it look good. So again, how do we word it on the contract? I would suggest take a picture of this screen. We'll send you the presentation, but I know we're gonna get this question in the future. Seller to credit buyer, let's say $12,000 for discount points. It's not for closing costs, it's not for anything else, it's for discount points. Okay?
You don't like all that?
You got it? Take a picture of this screen?
Hey, Carol, so.
No.
So that scenario for the 2-for-1 buy down, how does it change if the buyer's coming in with, let's say, $150,000 down payment?
Then we have to make the calculation, because then the loan amount is gonna be lower, right?
Yeah.
But it's important to know is that it's depending on the purchase price, the interest rate, and the loan amount.
Okay.
So we have to take all of those factors into consideration, and then we'll give you the exact number.
Oh, okay. Well,
It's a mathematical equation.
Um,
It's just a mathematical equation.
It's an Excel sheet. Okay, does that make sense so far?
Yeah.
Now, there's different ways we can do this. We can also do a 1-1 buy down, where the interest rate only drops 1 point the first year, and then it goes back to normal. You can do a 3-to-1 buy down. So there's different ways we can do
Wait, what's
this.
a
but-
3-to-1?
This is the most famous one right now. And if you know that your seller's not gonna be paying too much money, and it's just for 1 year buy down to give them a break for just 1 year, it's a lot less, it's 40 to 50.
3-to-1 buy down.
So the first year is like 10.9 in this case, and then the
Yeah,
second
but
is
it's gonna cost a lot more money, so then it's gonna be harder to request it from the seller. Yeah, so this is a little bit more doable when it comes to our sellers and buyers.
So let's say you make an offer with this scenario, can they give a counter offer with the 1-1? You know what I mean?
They're not gonna know, they're gonna either agree on it or not, or maybe if they discount the money that the seller is paying, then let's say you ask for 9,000 and the seller goes back and say, I'm gonna be paying 5,000, then we can suggest to the buyer, listen, the 5,000 is good for 2-1 buy down.
Or maybe we can suggest to increase $5,000 on the purchase price and go up $5,000 on the credit, if the house can appraise for that much. Does that make sense?
Just like when you're negotiating.
Yeah, so we are negotiating at the end of the day with our seller. So we can offer them $450 and then get $10,000, and then they say no, maybe we can offer $460 at that point. It's a negotiation process, it's the same thing, depending on the client scenario.
Maybe.
Maybe what?
Mike, I muted you, what happened?
That's our tech guy.
I can't see up to that.
He's always trying to be nice.
Well, that's what she was saying.
It's right in the bottom.
Yeah, see the mute?
No, that's gonna mute everyone.
Oh, no, but that's us.
That's gonna be me.
Oh, I thought that's what you wanted.
Anyways, I think
I think we're pretty.
That was it on the presentation.
So that's what we are
I have a question. So let's say I want to buy down my rate, let's say it's 7%. I want a long-term buy down, right? And let's say I buy it down to 6%. Now I also want to do the 2-to-1.
So you wanna refinance and do a 2-to-1?
No, I don't want to refi. I just want to buy down the rate, and then I want to ask the seller to put in money to give me my 2-to-1. So does it start at the 6% or does it start at the 7%?
Well, if
How far
that,
did I
let's say
buy
that
down?
6%, let's say their rates today are at 7%, right? And you want to buy down permanently at 6%,
Yeah.
that's gonna cost money.
Yeah,
So
and I'll
we
pay
have to
that.
buy it down to that
Okay.
point, and then on top of it, we can do a 2-1 buy down.
But will that 2-to-1 buy down start at the 6% that I bought it down to?
Yeah, because we locked it at 6%.
Okay, cool.
That's gonna be the
Can
capital.
I ask you a question? Can you permanently, so we're talking about just for like a year or 3 that you buy that interest rate down. Is there a permanent buy down?
Yeah.
And what is the difference between the two in terms of the outlay of money if we're asking the seller to pay for it?
Well, if you're permanently buying down your rate, you're probably not gonna be able to get, let's say, to a 4.5%, like we saw in the first example. That's item number 1. Item number 2 is gonna cost a little bit more money, right?
It's like 5 times more.
Depending on what's the rate, depending on the FICO, depending on the ratios, but we'll see what's the interest rate that best suits the clients, how much is that costing money, and then we can always ask the seller to pay for it as well. But you're buying it for the whole 30 years, and it's gonna be
Sounds like
permanently at
30,000.
that rate.
Versus 15.
Always a hitch.
But I mean,
But
even
sometimes it's worth it
to
to
what?
buy it down.
Yeah, now
I've done it.
let me find a buyer first. And I'll send it to you, so explain that. Got it.
So actually, in a way, if they can, rather than putting a big down payment down, it makes more sense for them to take what might have been a big down payment and use a chunk of that to actually permanently buy down their interest rate, because that's gonna be more beneficial over the long term.
Sometimes that is the most beneficial case, and that's where Hallie and I come into place, and our expertise comes into place, advising the client correctly. Like the other day, we had a client, she really wanted to pay $30,000 to buy down the rate. And at that point, she had the money, she was able to do it, why not? But at that point, you do whatever you would do for your own self at the end of the day. So you advise, okay, this is gonna mean this means this in the next 2
So
years.
let me tell you a little bit about the difference,
Yeah.
okay? So basically, the buyer is going to buy down the interest rate 2 points. Literally, I've been looking every single day at rates. That's what we do the best, right? So your client, 32,900, 33,000. I'm just giving you an example, like, and then when I did the 2-1 buy down, it was about 11,000. But the difference, this is permanent. This is the first year 2 points, the second year 1 point, and the third year is what? So I tell the buyer, if you are going to be paying $34,000 to buy down your rate, better not to refinance.
Yeah.
Literally, that whole money is gone.
Yeah.
Right? And then, in this case, when the rates goes down, they're not losing anything. The seller's paying all the money. They're taking advantage for the next 2 years, not paying the full note rate on their mortgage. Hoping, I tell people, are you okay with the monthly payment? This is the highest it's gonna go with. Yeah, we're fine with it. Okay, let's ask the seller, right? And let's see what we can get from the seller. All what I actually do is go for your buyer. The buyer has to feel you're fighting for him. And that's why our buyers go back to us. After 12 years, I have the buyer comes in, it's like, you know what, I lost your business card, I'm looking for you. Not because I'm special, or she's special. Because when I fight for the buyer. Literally, I talked the other day for 1 hour with a listing agent for my buyer. I'm not supposed to have that conversation, you know, this is somebody else's conversation. But what I'm saying is, Mr. Buyer, it's not gonna cost you anything, why don't we try, right? What is the buyer's gonna feel? What do you think how your buyer is gonna feel if you are fighting for him? Guess what? We have this program, it's gonna give you a break for the next 2 years. It's not gonna cost you anything. But, Mr. Buyer, this is gonna cost you $30,000, right? And probably it's not gonna be reduced 2 points. You have no idea how much it costs to every 0.25%, it's almost 1 discount point. You have to put it in your mind. Every time you lower the interest rate about 0.25%, sometimes it costs 1% discount fee. So in reducing it 2 points, that means it's gonna cost the buyer around 80%. You got it? I mean, if you want, we can log in and we do some live situations and you can see the difference. But let's say Mr. Seller is paying $15,000 in discount fees and the buyer is willing to pay another $15,000, yes. So that's why each scenario is different. She's telling you, like, the minute the buyer comes into us, I look at it, it's like, the other day, like she said, the lady went in and she has the money. She's pulling her 401k, whatever. But I told her, this is how much savings you're gonna be on your monthly payment, paying this much money.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then what happens if you sell the house in 3 years, all that money is gone. If you refinance, it's gone, right?
So if she's gonna pay that $30,000, she's betting interest is just gonna keep going up, and she's gonna keep the house for 30 years.
Yeah.
But if any of those change, her money's gone. So you're right.
But
You
we
shouldn't.
know that
It's
the
probably gonna come
average
in.
home buyer between 5 to 7 years, they either replace their house or sell their house or they move.
Or foreclose.
By the way, we went to Las Vegas, we had a convention, and I met with the Freddie Mac lady, FHA, HUD, whatever, and I asked them about what's going on with the foreclosure market. I don't know, I mean, Fannie Mae ladies like, why you are bringing this here? Because there's nothing like this is gonna happen. The percentage of foreclosure defaults right now is 0.03%. So he's like, nothing is gonna don't
Low
even,
interest rates are just
yeah,
hanging
it's
out.
like, yeah. So right now they are bringing up, we have a program that it's making it easier on their mortgage insurance for the buyer. So we have very low mortgage insurance when they're putting less than 20% down conventional. And we're using a lot of the seller's money. Believe it or not, in some of other areas, the seller is not willing to even drop the price that much, maybe a few $1,000s, not more. The sellers are still very stubborn of making some changes on their mindset of how much their house is worth.
Because they're talking to their neighbor.
My
my neighbor sold his for $1 million.
But the thing is, what's your job, guys?
Education.
Educating. And if you don't have the education, how you're gonna educate them?
That's why we're here.
And I tell people, by the way, everything I know, and I know it's not because I experienced it, because I heard it and I asked a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And always be curious to know more. Love what you do, and that's how you want it to know more, right? So, I mean, I'm just letting you know, like the minute you open your mouth and you're talking to the buyer and the buyer can tell. I had a client that I closed about 1.5 years ago. Yesterday, he's selling one of his properties that he owned. He's like, I'm not gonna make a move. I need you to give me your opinion. And I'm like, I'm busy. Yesterday, he's like, I'll wait for you. I'm not gonna answer this offer unless I thought. I'm like, okay, I have to review the offer. I have to see what's wrong with it. And I said, don't take the offer. I said, it's a scam. And he's like, really? I don't know. How do I know it's a scam? Because I heard somebody been scammed. Not because I've been scammed. So I want you guys to go out there and always, always listen. And you grow of the conversation with someone. If you know somebody knows more than any information that you do not know, listen to them. Being, open mind, that's how it's gonna open your doors with buyers and sellers, because you know why? You're gonna look so good that they know you know your information. And I tell this example all the time. When you walk to Best Buy, when it was open or whatever, this Best Buy is open again. When you walk to Best Buy, right? And a salesperson greets you at the front, right? And you ask them, what's the best computer for me? This is what I need to do with my computer. And you feel they're hesitant, they do not know what they're talking about. You're gonna go to the next salesperson that knows their information. And I want you to think about it. The more I know, even though you don't have to experience everything, and you don't have to have thousands of transactions to be done to know. Yeah. But if you always listen to the next conversation, how did this person do this deal, and why payment is not this, and why the roof needs to be fixed, and why the appraiser came in with this information on their report, whatever, that's when you're gonna know more. Okay? I just want the best for you guys. Every single day I answer thousands of questions, not because I'm benefiting from it, because I love benefiting you guys. So we go above and beyond, not for us to do the transaction, for you to win. Because if you're winning, we're winning. Literally. If you're negotiating and you win the offer, as if we won the offer. So basically, you are guys, our client that go out and get the clients. Our job is to serve you the best we can. We are partners. But Carol is literally more here than me. And if you have any questions, she'll answer them. But I wanted to elaborate a little bit more about the fixed, the lower rate versus the.
Can I ask you another question? So I have a friend who makes his mortgage payment in 2 installments in a month. And he was trying to explain it to me, and I just wasn't giving it time. Because, I think maybe I had some emotions. But how does that work usually? Do you have people that come in?
In the last month and a half, we had like 5 people ask us the same
I
question.
know, I feel like there's
Even
like
the clients that are doing those transactions, it's like, Hadia, we want to make
by
two-
weekly payments.
two
Yeah,
payments
it's
a
only
month.
because you bring down the balance, you pay.
They want to make 2 payments a month instead of
Yeah.
1 payment because they've been hearing that it will save them money on the long run.
Right.
It does,
Right?
because what you do is you make them bi-weekly.
Bi-weekly.
So every 2 weeks.
love it.
You end up making 1 extra payment.
Right.
And not only that, when you make it bi-weekly, the interest,
So
they drop the interest.
Did I explain it the same way yesterday?
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. There's 2 buyers or two employees. One gets paid monthly, one gets paid bi-weekly. And some people, they get paid semi-monthly,
Yeah.
like in the middle of the month and the end of the month.
Yeah, 15.
Have anybody been employed as a wage
You always
earner?
want, you always want to be bi.
Military do it, used to.
Okay, so-
You always want to be bi.
Air Force.
So why bi-weekly is better for an employee? Why is a bi-weekly better for an
You
employee?
get 1 extra check.
Bravo.
So you always want to be bi.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically when you get
Never alone.
paid bi-weekly, you get paid 1 extra check or 2 extra checks a year.
I think it's 2.
Two.
Oh, is it 2? I'm sorry, it's 2,
2
yeah.
extra checks a year. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Did you know
You're
that? Okay, so if you get paid, let's say you get paid $5,000 a month. You get paid $2,500 on the 15th, you get paid $2,500 on the 30th. You're gonna make $5,000 a month. But when you get paid bi-weekly, every 2 weeks, guess what? You get 2 more paychecks a year.
Yeah.
There's 2 more weeks per year that you get paid. The same thing, if you pay your mortgage bi-weekly, you are making 2 more monthly payments or one monthly payment a year
Yeah.
on your mortgage. So basically, it saves you on the long run as if you paid more
It cuts down.
toward your principal throughout the years.
And that's just splitting your actual whole payment into 2. That's
Yes.
not necessarily doing
No.
2 full payments per month.
No.
Well, you are, but
no.
you're not.
So your monthly payment's $2,000, you make every bi-weekly, every 2 weeks, you pay $1,000. So basically, you are making 1 more monthly payment to your mortgage company, 1 more. So basically, over the years, you pay your loan faster.
It's actually a lot faster. It's shaved up. I think someone said 7 years or something.
I
Oh,
got
30-year
5
loan.
years, Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got it?
Yeah.
So that's why. Yesterday, actually, we had like 6 people call
I
us.
think there's videos on YouTube.
There's
Yeah,
videos
yeah.
About this, so everyone is going crazy and asking us this question.
And you should definitely,
They
I mean, you
come
have
see
to tell
this.
your mortgage companies that's what you're doing. You can't just.
Yeah,
say,
so
"No,
we cannot
you
do
don't
it
get
while we're closing the transaction. After we close the transaction and they get their final mortgage statement from whoever investor they're making their monthly payment to call them and set it up like that. So that investor takes that money every other week.
I tell them if they can make 1 payment to me, you can pay up way quicker. If I get 12 people to do that, I got my mortgage paid.
So the final, actually,
Yeah, right.
I have 1 final question. What's my name?
Hi.
What's her name?
Carol.
joke so much for you.
Yeah, no, I like to laugh, I like to show.
That's true.
And the other one registered for the class, I think she paid
That
for it.
connection.
Didn't ever do it.
Good though. People got to see you.
Stars.
Raven
I don't like my answers too much. I don't like it. I'm so much into like destination.
I know, he is so fun. We talked about it, he's like cheering me on, like, you picked it. I was telling Charlie, because I always make fun of like, he says things I could never say. But she's my friend, she actually joined KW, we used to work at the dealership together, and I was telling Alex, like, this is the girl I was telling you about. And he tells her, did you put her as your sponsor? I'm like, yes. I could never, and then I told Charlie, and Charlie was like, no, you should ask, it's not a big deal. I was like, he asked in front of her, and he's like, oh yeah, fuck you, bro, that's too much. And I didn't know it on that first time. Yeah, it was real funny. No, and Alex is a genuine person, like, he's robust, he tells him, like, don't just like, he's like, it's a fact. You don't think she knows? Like, why isn't it more news? Maybe a secret from that? Like, his logic is just so, like, he's a facts guy. Where I'm like, I'm in the gray zone.
I found you, I had to tag you on
But it was the funniest thing the way you did it, and I used to laugh about it, Charlie.
I said, I'm driving.
You were like, did you put her
Oh, that's how you told her. That's why.
What if I would have said, well, maybe we could sit for a little bit.
But I dropped it. No, he would have said, so who'd you put?
That's usually where my business has come
In
from.
front of everyone? You have to answer.
You assist with you.
Yes, we can sit for like a whole hour. Where Josh is from. Our broker, next to Liana.
Oh, okay, I'm gonna go see you then. Go eat, bring me some.
Yes. Okay, I'll get you something.
I have my
Kirby, but he was
Yes, you
I would happy to.
Anyway,
I would live in here. That's in my house. No, I didn't know anyone. I just showed up to the door. I was like, I hear you. I didn't know anyone, so there was no like, but.
I mean, I know that a lot of people
Rob,
using it
because he
as
interviewed me, and I was like,
more than a.
I was there for career night. You did the presentation. But I have no one. And he was like, I would love to take it, but I want someone else to take it. The only other name I knew was Kathy Toso, because she taught the class.
What did you,
Go dating online and see who works in the.
I think this was her.
Dating online and see who works at the.
If you know of anybody, though, let me know.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, you did.
Because I used to be able to pass away. And then I remarried. I lost my ability.
I was already
You
thinking
need to
about
go
it.
back on the game.
Facebook.
How's the food?
I don't know which one you wanted, there's a lot. You did, I got that one, but there's like this.
That's what you want. That's why you were feeding me what you like.
I'm like, I'm just gonna get
Did they
pepperoni.
explain it well to you?
Can't go wrong with pepperoni.
That's not good.
This is good too.
like, since I couldn't skip it.
That's not
What a
good.
miracle.
I'm Nadia.
Eric,
Eric. I'm Nadia.
we met, how did
We met? Ramsey.
Yes.
My brother-in-law's name is Ramsey.
Oh, really?
Actually, I have two sisters. They're both married to Ramsey.
Because Ruben is happy.
I swear. Both of them. Ramsey.
Ramsey.
Huh?
But your name is Hector.
It's very popular.
I like how you fold your pizza.
Thank you
You're welcome.
for the knowledge and for the.
Olga?
Cecilia.
Cecilia. Ceci.
You're shaking. He's like, okay, Cecilia.
Who's on the team?
Nobody.
Hmm?
No.
No?
I've been asked plenty of times to be part of them.
We're basically a team.
Married, but not on the team.
Oh, good.
I'll wear mine.
It's gone now.
You know my jacket? I
No.
just bought this one.
Yeah. Full time, all of you full time in this business?
Full time.
Wow.
It's rough, but.